Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Struggles and Triumphs, an illustrated lecture depicting Phineas Taylor Barnum's illustrious career. Surely there are those in American history who stand for higher achievement in literature, science, and art. But there is no one more typical of genuine American enterprise, indomitable will, and unerring instinct for success than P.T. Barnum. Here is the great showman's humble birthplace in Bethel, Connecticut, where Mr. Barnum was born in 1810. Like so many of his compatriots, Barnum came from good old New England heritage. His ancestors were among the settlers of Massachusetts and Connecticut. On November 8, 1829, at the age of 19, Barnum married his childhood sweetheart, Charity Hollett, who was 21. These handbills date from 1835, when Mr. Barnum presented his first attraction, Joyce Heth, the oldest woman in the world and nurse to General George Washington. Barnum exhibited Joyce Heth in New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and many other places where his halls were enthronged. This is Barnum's famed American Museum at the corner of Ann Street and Broadway in New York City, which opened on New Year's Day, 1842. Barnum's American Museum was the world's largest, grandest, and best amusement institution and housed 600,000 exhibits, including Ching and Ang, the authentic Siamese twins, educated fleas, albinos, Greta the Fat Girl over 500 pounds, a tribe of aborigines, Anne Swan, the world's tallest woman, Niagara Falls with real water, living statuary, crystal blowing, Indian war dances, stuffed and live gorillas, every sight, wonder, and phenomenon known to mankind. This is a romantic portrait of the Fiji mermaid, which Mr. Barnum displayed at the American Museum. The mermaid actually looked like this, and was Mr. Barnum's most popular attraction in 1842. Years later, Mr. Barnum discovered the Fiji mermaid had been created by a Japanese fisherman who joined the upper half of a monkey to the lower half of a fish so neatly as to defy all inspection. In the lecture hall at Barnum's American Museum, the Drunkard and Uncle Tom's Cabin were given their earliest showings. Here is Mr. Barnum himself as proprietor of the American Museum. On July 13, 1865, due to a gas leak, the museum burned to the ground, destroying all 600,000 exhibits. None of Barnum's attractions has been more famous than Tom Thumb. He stood 25 inches tall from toe to crown and weighed only 15 pounds. He was perfectly formed, bright-eyed, with ruddy cheeks, and enjoyed the best of health. This is Tom Thumb, seated next to his father, Mr. Sherwood Stratton of Bridgeport, where Tom was born on January 4, 1834. On his international tour, Tom Thumb played a variety of roles, including Cupid, the biblical David, and a semi-nude gladiator, and as Napoleon Bonaparte in full regalia. In 1844, Tom Thumb appeared at London's Egyptian Hall and at Buckingham Palace, where he gave 3 command performances for Her Majesty Queen Victoria and Prince Albert, who dubbed him the Pet of the Palace. On February 10, 1863, at the Grace Church of New York City, Tom Thumb married Miss Lavinia Warren Bump, a lady just a few inches shorter than he was. The wedding was attended by several governors, army generals, congressmen, and millionaires. Here is Tom Thumb's home in Bridgeport. Half of the house was regular size for receiving visitors, and half was scaled down for the comfort of Mr. and Mrs. Thumb. Shortly after their wedding, Mr. and Mrs. Tom Thumb were received at the White House by President Abraham Lincoln. When asked by Lincoln if General Thumb had any advice on the conduct of the Civil War, Tom Thumb replied, "My friend Barnum would settle the whole affair in a month." Although Phineas Taylor Barnum was the world's greatest showman of oddities, he also wanted to be known as an impresario of artistic attraction, and in 1850 engaged Jenny Lind, the Swedish nightingale, whose soprano voice was praised as the finest in the world by Mendelssohn, Chopin, and Wagner. This etching shows Jenny Lind's arrival in New York. 8 months earlier, no one in America had known who she was, but with Barnum's artful prodding, 30,000 were on hand to greet her ship. Barnum sold tickets for Jenny Lind's opening night at public auction, and the first ticket was sold for $225. Miss Lynn's first concert in the United States took place at Castle Garden in New York City on the evening of September 11th, 1850. Here is a program from Miss Lynn's opening night. Jumbo, the children's giant pet and one of Mr. Barnum's most popular attractions, was brought to America from the Royal Zoological Society of London. Jumbo measured 12 feet tall at the shoulder and weighed 6½ tons. And with his 7-foot trunk, he was capable of reaching an object 26 feet high from the ground. Jumbo's diet included 200 pounds of hay, 21 buckets of water, and a quart of bourbon whiskey every day. Mr. Barnum retired from the exhibition and menagerie business to serve an active public life, and in 1865 was elected to the Connecticut State Senate, and later served a term as mayor of Bridgeport. In 1880, he returned to the entertainment industry, joining forces with James A. Bailey to create the greatest show on earth. The circus opened under 3 acres of canvas, with a seating capacity of 5,000 who viewed animals, freaks, sideshow curios, the Barnum and Bailey Elephant Parade, plus acrobats, bareback riders, lion tamers, fat ladies, and more than 200 international artists.